My girlfriend demanded me to pay her luxury girls trip while I paid all the rent. So she got kicked out. I'm 32, and I thought I had things under control. I had a steady job, a nice apartment in the city, and I'd been dating Emma, who's 29, for about a year and a half. Emma was lively, social, and she always had something going on: a concert, brunch with her friends, a weekend getaway. I liked that energy at first. It was fun, a break from my usual routine. But that was before she decided we should move in together. When she first brought it up, I was excited. I figured sharing a place would be a step forward, and maybe splitting the cost would even save us some money. Emma had a steady job too, or at least that's what I thought. So we agreed to look for a place. I set a budget, something I could comfortably afford if things ever got tight, but Emma insisted we go for something a little nicer in a trendy part of town. She claimed it was just a bit above what I wanted, and that we'd split everything 50 to 50 anyway. So we moved in. The first month went by, and I handled the rent since she said she was waiting on a big commission from work. No problem, I thought, we're in this together. The second month came around, and she still hadn't pitched in, blaming some unexpected expenses. Then the third month passed with me covering everything again. When I brought it up, she sighed and told me she'd been really stressed and didn't feel comfortable talking about money right now. She said, "You're just better with finances, babe. I thought you'd understand." It wasn't a request, just an expectation. Like somehow I was supposed to be okay with it. I tried to bring it up gently over the next few months, but every time, she had an excuse. "I'll make it up next month." Or, "I'm just not in a good place financially right now." By then, I was paying not only rent, but also utilities, groceries, and even some things around the apartment that she'd insisted we needed, like new plants, throw pillows, artwork. All the little things she wanted to make our space feel homey. Then came the car. Emma didn't have her own, so I didn't mind lending her mine here and there, like when she needed to run errands. But suddenly, she was using it every day, and every time I go to use it, the tank was empty. One day, when I asked her to fill it up after she'd used it all week, she rolled her eyes and said, "Come on, you make more money than I do. It's just gas." Then she started leaving my car messy, throwing receipts, water bottles, and snack wrappers in there like it was her personal trash can. Things only got worse from there. She started having her friends over constantly, treating our place like it was her clubhouse. Every Friday night was girls' night, with bottles of wine, takeout, and a mess left for me to clean up afterward. I'd come home from a long day at work, looking forward to some peace and quiet, only to find her and 3 or 4 of her friends sprawled across the living room, blasting music and giggling. I'd get barely a nod of acknowledgement before being banished to the bedroom to give them girl time. I put up with it, somehow convincing myself that things would even out, that this was just a phase. Then one night, she hit me with, "I'm planning a girls' trip with my friends to a resort in Cabo. It's going to be amazing. Spa days, poolside drinks, the whole thing." She looked at me expectantly. I didn't get it at first. "Sounds like fun," I said, figuring she was just excited. She waited like there was more I was supposed to say, and then it hit me. "You're not asking me to pay for it, right?" She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "I was hoping you'd at least help me out. You know I don't have extra money right now, and it's just a weekend trip. You could cover part of it, couldn't you?" This was after I'd been covering rent, utilities, groceries, and half the upgrades to our place. I told her no, I couldn't help her pay for a luxury vacation. Her face dropped, and she got defensive. "Seriously? You're gonna act like this over a little trip? I need this, you know. I've been so stressed. Can't you just be supportive for once?" The conversation went in circles, with her blaming me for ruining her mental health by refusing to pay, and me trying to get a word in about how I was already struggling to keep up with all our expenses. She left for her trip a few days later, barely saying goodbye. I didn't hear from her the entire weekend. When she got back, she acted like everything was normal. She mentioned her amazing massage and a shopping spree, like I hadn't just told her how tight things were financially. I couldn't believe it. Then, as if that weren't enough, she handed me a receipt from the trip for a wellness treatment she'd gotten at the resort, saying, "I think it would be fair if you helped with this, considering how much stress you've been putting me under." I couldn't believe my ears. I told her flat out that I wasn't paying for any part of her trip and that if she wanted those luxuries, she needed to figure out her own finances. She pouted, calling me unsupportive and selfish. But I didn't care anymore. But the entitlement didn't stop. A week later, she texted me out of the blue asking if she could borrow my credit card to order a dress for an event with her friends, promising she'd pay me back soon. When I didn't respond, she left me a long voice message, complaining that I was ignoring her and that I never wanted to help with anything important to her. It was mind-boggling. Here I was covering all our expenses, and she was acting like I'd committed some crime by saying no to her luxury items. That was when I started realizing I was never going to get through to her. She wasn't interested in a partnership. She wanted a free ride. And the more I tried to explain how strained I was financially, the more she twisted it around to make me look like the bad guy. She even managed to get one of our mutual friends involved, saying I was financially abusive for not allowing her the same lifestyle she'd had before we moved in. The friend called me to hear my side, clearly swayed by Emma's sob story, and I had to sit there explaining how I'd been paying for nearly everything while she blew her own money on spa trips and self-care. When Emma found out I'd told our friend the truth, she was furious. She accused me of airing our dirty laundry and making her look bad. That night, she texted me to say she'd forgiven me, but added a reminder that I owed her for everything she'd put up with in the relationship. After that, things spiraled fast. I stopped engaging with her manipulations, stopped paying for anything beyond my own essentials. I made it clear she had to start covering her half of the rent if she wanted to stay. She didn't take it well, naturally. Every day was a new complaint, a new argument, a new reason why she couldn't deal with this right now. The day that really sealed it for me, though, was when she tried to guilt trip my mom. She'd somehow gotten my mom's number from an old group chat, and without a word to me, texted her saying she was struggling with unexpected financial pressures because I refused to support her. My mom called me worried, asking if things were okay between us, saying she'd offered to help cover some emergency bills that Emma had mentioned. I couldn't believe it. Emma had basically guilted my own mom into sending her money, spinning it as if she were in some desperate situation I'd caused. I was done being nice. I confronted Emma, furious, and told her this was over. No more excuses, no more dragging things out. She crossed every line I had, and then some. Her reaction was exactly what I should have expected, but it still floored me. First, she tried to act confused, pretending she didn't know why I was so upset. Then, when she realized I was serious, she turned on the tears, saying I was abandoning her and ruining her life. She claimed she had nowhere to go, that she was devastated I would do this to her. I told her she had a week to pack up her stuff and find somewhere else. I wasn't going to keep enabling her. But of course, that wasn't enough. Emma played every last card she could think of. She started telling our mutual friends that I'd kicked her out with no warning, left her homeless, and broke. She twisted every part of the story until, to some people, I was the bad guy. Friends I hadn't heard from in months were suddenly texting me, saying I was heartless and asking why I hadn't tried to work things out. She even managed to rope one of my close friends into letting her crash at their place, telling them it was only temporary. In the meantime, I changed the locks on my apartment, blocked her on social media, and tried to cut off any contact I could. I didn't want to hear any more sob stories or have her guilt tripping me into second-guessing myself. But even that didn't stop her. She kept reaching out through mutual friends, hinting that she still had some things at my place that were sentimental and that I was being cruel by refusing to give them back. She left voicemails on my phone, going on about how unfair I'd been, how I'd used her up and then discarded her. A few weeks later, I found out from one of our mutual friends that Emma had started spreading a rumor that I'd been cheating on her, and that's why I'd broken things off. She even hinted I'd been seeing someone else the whole time we were together, telling people she didn't want to expose me, but she felt like people deserved the truth. I couldn't believe how low she was willing to go just to save face. But by then, I was so drained from everything, I let it go. Anyone who actually knew me would see through it, I figured. Eventually, she moved on to some new guy, Another friend mentioned it in passing, like it was supposed to be some big blow to me. But honestly, I felt nothing but relief. It was over, and I could finally breathe again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.